Welcome to the Heart-Centered Entrepreneur Podcast. I want you to be rich. Yes, I want abundant financial success for your business. But I don't just care about your business making money. I care about you too. I want you to be rich in happiness, in the impact you make, in your relationships, and in how you give back. I'm Anna. I built my six-figure business as a side hustle while I was pregnant with my daughter in 2016. Now I've helped dozens of women do the same. I'm here to help you build a profitable, heart-centered, fully booked business with the latest tips on sales and visibility, with proven mindset hacks, and sneak peeks behind the scenes with what's working right now in the online space and in my business. Ready to make more money with heart? Let's go. I am recording this podcast at the end of summer the end of summer for me because my kids are starting school, but I have so enjoyed this summer. I've so enjoyed the sunshine. I've been dealing with a few personal challenges behind the scenes. And so I think when that happens, I just enjoy the simple things more. And for me, that's the sunshine. I just love a beautiful 75-degree sunny day, taking the kids to jujitsu, going to my bar class, going to salsa class, like just so thankful for this season. And I feel like just naturally there's a little bit less pressure, a little bit more excuse to relax and rest. So I've been enjoying it. I hope you have been enjoying it too. But I did a story the other day on Instagram that says, if you haven't been enjoying the summer, don't guilt yourself for it, because looking back, many of my summers I did not enjoy. And I think traditionally times when we're supposed to enjoy our life, like summer, like Christmas, like the weekend, often women don't enjoy those because it's when we are carrying extra emotional labor-wise, and it's almost like we're expected to be happy, but behind the scenes, we're actually carrying extra, right? Coordinating and arranging and making everything look perfect, but not breaking a sweat. So just seeing you and hearing you if that is the case for you. Okay, I'm so excited for today's episode. A few months ago, I did an episode really trying to convince you to not be afraid of ChatGPT. So many of my clients are in industries and businesses where ChatGPT has been a huge disruptor of the industry, for the better, for the worse. It's just what it is. Technology is rapidly changing. And so a big goal of mine is always helping my clients in their business be ahead of the curve when it comes to industry changes. And so I really feel like a few months ago I was trying to convince all my clients, don't be afraid of ChatGPT, use it for your business, let your team use it, etc. And now I'm running into a different challenge with my clients. And that's realizing that it's a powerful tool, but it has its limits. And I'm really learning myself too, where I don't want to use ChatGPT. How to put boundaries on yourself, just like with Instagram, right? I have boundaries for myself with Instagram. I try to sleep with my phone in the bathroom so that I don't scroll at night, right? I keep Instagram deleted off my phone most of the time and use it for my desktop. Just like that, ChatGPT, I think also we need guardrails and limits with how we use it so that it doesn't actually sabotage us or work against us. And so I just want to share just some of my insights on how I've maybe used or overused ChatGPT and then regretted it, and then advice I've been giving my clients lately for what ChatGPT isn't so good for. And I just kind of want to open this conversation. Like, feel free to email me back and let me know what you've been noticing, because for those of us that have kids, I think this is an important conversation for us to have, right? Like, how do we navigate, number one, social media boundaries, but also with ChatGPT? Like, my kids are going to be going to school and to college, if they choose to go to college, with ChatGPT. Like, how interesting that ChatGPT can just write your paper for you, edit your paper for you, right? It just blows my mind what a different tool it is. It kind of reminds me of like pre-internet and post-internet, right? People used to go to the library, and did anyone's parents have like those massive encyclopedia books, reference books on their parents' bookshelf? I did, right? And then suddenly it was all online. And so I just think it's important that we navigate this and figure out how to. So maybe to just start with what I'm noticing ChatGPT is good for and not good for, at least in my own life. Here are some of the things that I'm still loving using ChatGPT for. Trauma dumping. Like, when I don't want to trauma dump on my coach or my friends, though I do sometimes, if I'm just like in a bad mood and just want to process, I will just write ChatGPT. And it's just sometimes nice to not be alone and to have someone talking back with you, right? Now, let's talk about the shadow side of this. I did notice that I was starting to process more when something hard would happen within my business or in my personal life in ChatGPT more than I started using my daily check-in. Now, you guys know I'm a big fan of the daily check-in. It's basically checking in 6 simple areas every morning for 10 minutes to do mindset work. And one of those areas is pour it out. So I was basically doing pour it out in ChatGPT, which in some ways has been really useful and I've gotten some amazing insights. In other ways, I really noticed when you're doing your pour it out in ChatGPT and not in your daily check-in or a blank Google Doc, you aren't giving yourself time to think. And I think some of the blessing of pouring it out is so that you figure out, what do you think about it? It's not just these thoughts in your head about a situation. You're figuring out, what do I think and what do I want? And some of that quietness is actually good because that's where your intuition speaks. It's like we teach our kids, right? It's good to be bored because that's when you get ideas. And ChatGPT is not quiet. Immediately, ChatGPT is going to fill you back with thoughts and opinions and ideas. Sometimes it's nice because then we're not lonely. Then we're not alone with our own thoughts. But it's good to be alone with our own thoughts. It's good to have space and quiet, right? And the whole point of the daily check-in is that maybe there's a situation you've been ruminating on or a decision, and you haven't been making space to think it out. When I put that in ChatGPT, I realized I also wasn't giving myself space. And so I really returned to the practice of, okay, I want to do my pour it out on my Google Doc. And then I want to paste certain parts in ChatGPT that I want to. But first, I want to write my thoughts on a Google Doc and ask myself, what do I think about this? And just let it sit. And I know that silence is uncomfortable, but I think that silence is like half of the work, right? And so again, love it for trauma dumping, but I've been doing it from my daily check-in instead of straight in there. I actually do think, again, it's a great tool for mindset work, like processing things, asking it to create affirmations for me. But I really try to do my gratitudes, my wins in my daily check-in and then paste them in. I also still love it for compiling, like once I've written a webinar, asking it to make notes for the webinar or something like that. I also love it for light editing. Like if I write an email, I will ask ChatGPT, like, check for my typos, do light editing. But I am really, here it goes into what I'm not using it for. For the most part, I am not using it for original writing or original ideas. And I think especially for entrepreneurs, this is really important. Like for the average person, maybe it isn't, but for an entrepreneur, like what are you selling, right? You are really building trust with your audience at every step of the way and trying to get them to fall in love with you from your marketing so that you're attracting the right clients and detracting the right people before they pay you money. And I think where this gets really interesting, and I don't think this happens instantly, but I think that this happens over time, is I think if you're using too much of ChatGPT original stuff in your content, you're going to start getting not the best results, meaning people may sign with you that wouldn't have signed with you and aren't a fit, or vice versa. And so I just think, and I think the world is becoming more and more loud, overwhelming. Story has always been important, right? I've told you this before, like my kids love story podcasts. They love Circle Round. They love Snoop and Sniffy. Like when I play a story podcast for them, no matter how bad of a day they're having, like they will instantly be laughing and smiling. And it just, story taps into this creative part of our brain that just connects with us as humans. And so I think storytelling and marketing has always been important. You've heard me maybe before talk about it as authenticity content, but I think like it just became infinitely more important. And where is story going to come from? Not from ChatGPT. It's going to come from us, right? We're the ones that have a story that happened, this experience that happened, that personal part. And so I really continue to challenge myself around, okay, I can have ChatGPT edit me, but my original writing, my original ideas, those are going to be me, right? Because that's what's going to be most effective in my marketing. And in the long term, getting people to sign with me that really love working with me. I also think ChatGPT is not great for business strategy because it doesn't take into account you or your personality, right? I also don't think it's great for challenging you because what I started to notice as I was using ChatGPT is like, oh my God, it's always agreeing with me. Like it's always telling me I'm right. And again, that feels really good. And I think that's why ChatGPT can be so addicting, right? Because it's like, oh, it's this thing that's always never making me miserable by having me be in my own silence. And it's always telling me I'm right. And that feels really good. But I think that's not growth. And so what I've been noticing is that you can get lost in ChatGPT and it can kind of buffer you out instead of growth comes from challenging, right? That's the beauty of a coach, is someone that's going to know your trauma, know your flaws, know your patterns, and tell you no. And it's not, I just had a client yesterday say, I love working with you so much because I shared some of my program ideas with you and you told me they were all terrible. Obviously, I didn't say it like that, right? But that is the beauty of a coach, is that they're able to say, no, I don't like that, or no, like, so often I'm telling my clients hard, uncomfortable things. But this is the thing. This is why we hire a coach, because our friends, right? I was going through something personal last month and I asked like 4 different friends what I should do. And I just knew by asking my coach, Lacey, that she was going to tell me the opposite. But I didn't want to ask her. And then of course, when I asked her, she's like, what are you doing? Knock that off. Because I knew deep inside that like my highest self, like my friends love me, right? But our friends are not always going to tell us the hard truth. And I don't think they're necessarily there to tell us the hard truth all the time. You know what I mean? There definitely have been times my friends have, but I just think like it's safe to have people in our life that are just after not our comfort or our pleasure, but they're after our growth, our big picture comfort, our big picture happiness, right? And that future self advocating for her and what's best for her. And so I really try not to ask ChatGPT for strategy because I think it's just going to be generic, right? And I also think sometimes what I see with my clients is ChatGPT can give you so many ideas that it can be really hard it can be easy to feel like you're doing a lot of work, but you're not actually going anywhere because you're not actually taking action, right? ChatGPT is also not great for keeping things simple. Again, for giving you too many ideas, too many content ideas. Like most people that aren't visible right now, it's not because they don't have enough content ideas. It's because of a visibility block. Like they're afraid someone will judge them or whatever, right? So that's where I err on the side of like it being pretty good for some mindset work is my favorite thing to use it for. Again, I would love to hear from you what you're noticing, what you're seeing, and maybe even write on a sticky note your guardrails. Again, because it's going to be addictive to use ChatGPT for some of these things. Like we want to fill the silence. We would rather not have the original idea, but the long run of your business is going to benefit when you're creating the original ideas, when you're doing the original writing, when you are sitting in the silence, when you are a little bored, when you are getting challenged. And so I do think it's a tool we should use. I don't think we should be afraid of it, but I also think it's just being mindful of how much we're letting it infiltrate our inner world, our intuition, just like social media. I love social media, but I'm very mindful for if it's ever disrupting me, my peace, the way I think, the way I feel. Like, I think that is where technology, and who knows what technologies will be invented in the future. But for me, I think that's where I just try to ask myself, like, where am I giving away my autonomy, my authority, my sovereignty, my voice, my passion, me? Where am I letting that be dulled because I want temporary comfort, right? Whether it's scrolling Instagram, whether it's, letting ChatGPT soothe me instead of sitting in silence in my quiet corner. Where am I going for temporary comfort instead of big term sovereignty, self-trust, self-worthiness, all those pieces? I get this is a hard conversation. You do not have to be perfect at this, but maybe jot on a sticky note 3 things you want to commit to. I haven't used it for ChatGPT because I don't struggle with this as much, but for things that I do struggle with, I put my boundaries on an app called DaySense. It's a free app, I think. But basically, it's just a way to track different boundaries. I also use this for like interpersonal boundaries and things that I want to commit to myself. And so maybe you write, okay, for 30 days, I am going to do the daily check-in, right? And maybe I'll paste a few ideas in ChatGPT, but I'm going to dump my thoughts for myself in my journal and let those sit first. Maybe you say for 30 days, I'm going to do all my own original writing again. Maybe for 30 days, whatever it is, but really making those micro commitments to yourself, I think can be so powerful, again, for the long term. And the reason I want to make this podcast episode now is I feel like some of the negative effects of ChatGPT, I think we're not going to see for like another year or 2 or 3. And so as a heart-centered entrepreneur, I want you to get ahead of this. And we want to get in good habits now so that technology can serve us in the future without taking away what makes us magic, what makes us sparkle. And that is you. If you are looking for a safe and sovereign place, non-ChatGPT, to dump your challenges, your problems, where you're feeling stuck, I would love to invite you to join the waitlist for the mastermind. It's a small group with me as your coach where I can challenge you personally, get to know your business. And also it's a group of about 12 other women where you can show up and post and show up to Zoom calls and get strategy to create your 3-day work week, your 6-figure year. Because I think we trap ourselves. We're either like, okay, I have to figure this out on my own, or ChatGPT, instead of like, no, what's the other solution? It's being with a coach. It's being with a community that knows you, and and I get that it's vulnerable. I always have the girls tell me at the start of the mastermind, like, and I know you curated these ladies and I know it's a safe space, but I'm still nervous to post my real fears, my real challenges. What happened with a client? What happened when I hired team members and it didn't go well? But some of posting it there actually releases the shame and guilt of that and helps give us the freedom faster. And so I really have seen magic happen for women in these small communities of safe women with my strategic coaching support. And so I highly recommend that you join the waitlist so that you get first dibs and the best bonuses when I open the cart. Sending you the biggest hug as we traverse interesting times. Like I think about that with my kids, as I read them books at night about philosophy and different topics. Like I really think that we're in an interesting time, but I don't think we have to be afraid. I think that we can trust ourselves, and I think it's going to be a beautiful next decade. Thanks for hanging out today. Please hit that subscribe button so you can make sure to stay updated anytime a new episode drops. And I would love for you to join me in my free Facebook community. It's called The Heart-Centered Entrepreneur. We discuss the podcast episodes. I regularly go live and do free trainings. And you may even meet your newest biz bestie. So you can join at heartcenteredcommunity.com. It's absolutely free, and I cannot wait to see you in there.